All right, welcome back to the channel, everybody. We have the 2000 Ford F450 6.8 V10. I wanted to talk about the diagnosis I finally figured out on this thing. There is another video on this of how I pulled this. I got this truck for $1,000 and ran terrible. And basically we went through it and started getting it running better and better for the dumpster business, backup truck, and I've got a future video where I'm going to turn this into a truck specifically for dumpsters. I've got a system I'm going to do on that. That's a future video. So, still a rough truck. We still have some stuff to do to it, but it was a good deal for $1,000 at the time. So, when we went and got it, the owner hadn't had it running in a while, said he couldn't get it running, and we went and put a fuel filter in it. Well, we sprayed some, when it would crank over and everything like that, wouldn't fire. Sprayed some ether in it, it fired. And we checked fuel pressure. It's like 10 pounds of fuel pressure. We put a fuel filter in it. So it fired up. We drove it on the trailer and it shook and misfired and everything like that, and it barely made it on the trailer. So we went through it. Tires, got the rim. We put a new exhaust system on it. It was leaking. All new brakes, serviced the rear differential, reupholstered the seat, reupholstered the headliner. At the time we detailed it, had to put a new steering, or a steering column out of a van that I have. It was all messed up. Shocks, like I said, brakes all the way around. Radiator was leaking. Belts, hoses, water pump. Got all this stuff. Exhaust manifold gaskets. Did a ton of work to this thing. So a lot of maintenance issues, a lot of problems. So we start getting it running. And I start driving it. It's really underpowered. It shakes, it misfires. You slam on the fuel or the throttle pedal and it just falls on its face, and it would die. The alternator went out within the first week. So figure out some issues. So one issue is that the alternator was charging at idle, and then you step on it and the voltage just starts dropping. I thought it was a draw, but so now it's not getting enough voltage. Now it's going down to like 10 volts as you drive, but still charging the battery because, or 10 volts as you stomp on it, but it's still charging the battery because majority of the time you're above 12, 13, 14 volts as you drive it. So just shit in the bed, I mean, no power. So the alternator, come to figure out, is drawing power the higher it revs up, and it's taking power away. Not enough spark, whatever is going on, losing power. So put a new alternator on it. That problem's fixed in one way, except now when we step on it, now it just falls on its face. Similar, but not exactly the same. Put a fuel pressure gauge on it, and it's making 30, 40 something pounds of fuel pressure. You stomp on it, and the pump is not putting out the volume. So we replaced the fuel pump, which they didn't have. We couldn't find an exact replacement fuel pump, so we ended up having to drill the holes, put this thing in. Now we've got 40, 50, 60 pounds of pressure, somewhere in there. It's running good. Doesn't really fall on its face. Drives pretty good. That was the other thing we did. We took all the injectors out and tested them on my bench tester. Spray looked pretty decent. We cleaned them, improved the spray a lot, and that was before we even started driving it. So felt pretty good that the injectors were good. So now it's running and not having an obvious fall on its face, but it's still really underpowered. It's got shit for power, and when I pull my dump trailer, it's uphill, like goes from 60 down to 20 and then just struggles at 20. So now we're down on power. So we keep going back to fuel pressure. We clean the tank out and everything, and we keep driving it with fuel pressure. Fuel pressure seems to be staying good. I take the injectors out a second time and check them, test them. Everything looks good, and I don't want to replace injectors if they look good. So we put them on this little Altel thing I got on my channel that shows spray pattern, pressure, volume that they're pumping out. Everything's pretty good. It's got these random misfires and everything. So we take my paddle thing here and test spark. So we know that it has spark on all 8 coils. Coils are different, but you know, they look old, they look original. These are original Motorcraft. This is like a replacement AutoZone O'Reilly setup. We changed boots at one point, and the springs, made sure all those, there's different styles. I don't have a different style here, but oh well, I might. So all 10 coils are getting fire. We know that they're firing. We take the plugs out, we look at the plugs. Maybe I'm not good at reading plugs, but they look like they're firing good. It's running how it's supposed to. I put another wideband O2 monitor on it, and I look, and it's running lean, but I think it's running lean from the factory. It doesn't really, so it's at like 14.7 to 15, something like that, and it stays there. It doesn't change, you know, very much. So pull this thing out and we test them, and they're sparking, they're firing. Pull the spark plug, and it's jumping a blue spark across the spark plug. So this is obviously over time. We put it back together and keep driving it, and it's really freaking disappointing to drive. I mean, it is just a pile of shit. Compression test it, compression's all good. I mean, I went through every test that I know how. So we mess with this thing for months and months and months, and I just don't really drive it because of how much of a piece of shit it is. And then you talk to anyone, and oh yeah, V10 is way underpowered and it's a pile of shit. I used to be one of those too, and we'll see if I change my opinion on that. And V10 is a pile of shit. They're underpowered. That's normal. That's how they came from the factory. Now, there's not very many people that have experience with that. 99% of people's experience is bullshit. It's hearsay. There's not very many people you're going to find that bought one and owned one and drive one every day. They're just hard to find. We get another V10 that shows up that's a motorhome. And originally I was taking this tester, and it would spark from, and I don't actually know what the numbers on this guy means, but it would spark from that little point there to in the S. Someone's going to tell me that means bad. I have no idea. So we got this motorhome in, and it had like 20,000 miles on it, and it ran really good, 6.8 V10, and it would spark to about the 2 here. So not a big improvement, but it was an improvement. And the motorhome's 20-something years old, but the motorhome ran a lot better than this truck did. So we go get a coil from O'Reilly's. I can't remember the brand, but we put it in, and it's sparking to like the 0 here, so it goes a little bit further. So all these different coils are within this small range here. Had me kind of confused. I was like, man, I hate throwing parts at things. But coils were old, they were all mismatched, yada yada yada. And I went online just out of curiosity to see what. So coils are like, I don't know, something stupid, 80, 90, 100 bucks a piece at O'Reilly. I jump on, I find MSD, Ford Blaster, coil on plug, set of 8 coils, 5.4, 4.6, and the ability to buy 2 extras. So the other thing that we're looking at is, so you've got that puck system here with the, I probably can't get into it with one hand. And then you got springs, so you got different coils. You got Motorcraft with a different sticker on it, I think. I don't know, maybe it's just discolored. Definitely something different about that one, unless that's just minus the sticker, who knows. Anyways, this was like 350 bucks, and then I spent another $100 or something on those 2 coils. And so 400 something dollars. And I have never in my life, almost 20 years mechanicking, changed an entire set of coils for a maintenance issue or anything like that. And I've heard people say it in my entire mechanic career. I told them, yeah, it's not, coils are either good or bad. If it's running, your coils are fine. That's not the issue. You know, coil is going to be obviously weak. It's going to be misfiring on that cylinder consistently, and it's going to have the foul the plugs, something stupid like that. So that was always my belief. I put 10 MSD ignition coils in, and instantly this truck ran 100% better. Everything was better. So went and drove it with the dump trailer, 20,000 pounds, and it scoots 50, 60, 65 mile an hour up the hill to the dump, which is a good size hill for where I'm at. It smokes the tires now. It'll burn the tires. It does its thing. So everything runs good. That fixed the issue. I need to go back and check plugs. So I was told that cheap plugs, wrongly gap plugs, yada, 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 over time can wear out a coil. I still don't fully understand this. I don't know the science behind it. Oh, and we put the MSD in the tester, and it jumped the whole fucking thing. Like, it went all the way across this thing with a lot hotter, bluer spark. The thing is, it's really hard to tell when you're only using this small 1/8 gap to look at spark, or you're using a light that flashes, and pretty much both coils make the light flash. You can tell there's a different brightness level, but when you're comparing it to another coil, or you don't have anything to compare it to, you're not going to notice that difference. So yeah, kind of crazy. Replaced all 10 coils with MSD coils. Truck runs really, really good, or it did run really, really good for about 2 weeks. So now it's falling on its face when I go uphill. I think the fuel pump that I got from O'Reilly failed, or the fuel filter's clogged, which I'm thinking that's what's happening. I don't know why it's clogging, but that's the other thing I'm having a hard time, because now I've got two V10s with similar problems that are showing lean codes. So that's new to this one. It's got check engine light on. It's showing some oxygen sensors, some lean codes. So it's the other thing people replace is oxygen sensors as kind of like a as a maintenance item. But so I'm gonna look into that a little bit. But here's two things: is if you're gonna replace an oxygen sensor as a maintenance item, don't replace it with a shitty brand or whatever. Probably Dealer or Bosch. I'm not sure what the situation with that is. And then the fuel pump, I need to make sure is got its pressure where it's supposed to be as well, because these two, well, the 3 to 4 trucks that I've been dealing with the V10s have anywhere from 35 pounds of fuel pressure to 70 pounds of fuel pressure. Like a huge range, which doesn't make any sense to me. But I'm gonna look into that a little bit and see what the hell the range is supposed to be, because you look online and it says 35 pounds is fine to 55 pounds something is the range. I know my S10 was like 10 pounds low on fuel pressure, and its spec was like 48 to 52, and at 32 it was running freaking terrible, and I put a aftermarket fuel pump in it and it ran terrible again, and I went and got an AC Delco fuel pump and it ran perfect for 10 years now. So I have seen low fuel pressure cause issues. So the next thing is figure out, I still have to diagnose it, put a fuel pressure gauge on it again, put a wideband O2 sensor on it again. The other thing I'd like to do is tune this thing to just stay at 12.5 or 13 to 1 fuel to air ratio. But it's not really worth it to me. It's probably how it's meant to run. But if this thing was tuned in, it would probably run great. And then figure out if the fuel pump is just falling on its face with higher RPMs or higher loads, however the hell it works. But that's my next battle. First one's dealt with. I'm 100% positive coils were not doing their job, and it wasn't hot enough for this. I don't know. So these coils are even hotter than the ones that came brand new off the shelf from O'Reilly. I don't know if that matters, if that's that big of a difference, but I do know that this thing doubled in power replacing coils. Not saying that it has a shit ton of power, saying that it went from 100 horsepower to 200 horsepower, because still a V10. So we'll see if I can get this thing running good enough where I change my opinion about V10 a little bit. But yeah, figured this might help somebody. Diagnose things. There's all kinds of tools out there. Diagnose them properly. Look at the specs. And don't throw parts at shit. But that's kind of my arc of a story for this V10. Hopefully I help you. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Check out some of my other videos. And we'll see you on the next one.